Brahma Kumaris, and there's something that has really resonated with me with Eastern religions, and that one of the things that, one of my stumbling blocks is karma, where I'm not quite sure how to look at it. And I didn't even know there were many ways of looking at it. So that's what I'm learning about tonight, and I had the idea of having I belong to the Unitarian Church, and I'm the youth religious education teacher. And so my job is to teach children about all the religions, and which is how I came to be here, because I learned about it through teaching my kids. I'll give you an example of something in my life that's particularly troubling when it comes to karma. My son, who lives in Brooklyn, New York, got married to a woman that he absolutely adored 2 years ago. And the night before they got married, they were in a terrible accident. And she was thrown over a cliff. And they were on a four-wheeler in Costa Rica, and she went over a cliff, and he was still on the bike. And so he saw her go over, and she's just a little Turkish girl. And what happened is that she shattered her leg, and having never met her family before this, we had to get her to the hospital on an airplane, and they tried to put together as best they could with many pins her leg. So she spent the last 2 years recovering. My son spent the last 2 years becoming a man, learning how to take care of all this, and that was a very good thing. But this week was her return visit to the hospital, and she found out that her leg had only halfway healed, and there would not be any other way of healing the rest of it. And it was quite so sad for my son, because for the last 2 years he's just been consumed with guilt. So how do you look at that in karma? Is it enough to say it is what it is, and you deal with it as it is? Do you say that, that they're incurring negative karma from the past, but then what do you do with that? So I'm looking forward to, and there's a million things like that in life. Good things happen to bad people. So I'm hoping that tonight that we can have an open exploration of what karma is from many different viewpoints. And I'm so happy to welcome Jack Black, who frequently comes to the Unitarian Church. And so would you like to come up in this chair?
And we have 4 chairs.
Yeah. So.
From the back. And let's give him a big hand.
Yeah. Does everyone know John? Have you heard him speak before? He's one of the co-founders of the Southeastern Buddhist community, which is also in North Augusta.
One more.
Pardon me?
No, one more chair. I'm sorry, I was telling them.
John is incredibly learned, and when he came and talked to us at church, that we had a round afterglow, and he came and he was answering all our questions about Buddhism, and he talked about the depth of knowledge that he has. So in terms of having read the Gita, And I'm really interested to hear, because I'm sure you have not just a Buddhist perspective, but probably over time you have your perspective with many other different influences. So thank you for coming. And Dr. No, don't. No. Shritang Bahai. Shritang Bahai.
Yes.
I have a very. I'm sorry. Just.
This is, you're doing super.
And Kanish the Ben. So, so they're going to join us and speak from their points of view.
And you could invite Ha, and we will have Ha sing a song for us while we sit up here.
Are you Ha?
Yeah, and
Nice
I
to
can.
meet you. Would you care to join us this year?
Yeah, we could actually have. Where would you like to sit? There would be okay. There.
Sure, that'll be fine.
And
Let me set up and then.
yeah.
Can I sing too?
Yeah, of course. But you'll have to see what he's singing. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. You're most welcome to sing. Turn it down. Say, oh, sit, John.
Newspaper? Does everyone know Mama? Mama is Shritang Bahai's mother, who's visiting from India.
Meanwhile, if you could tell them a few housekeeping tips.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry. Right. Restroom is the door on the right in the hallway, on the right. The room on the left, straight back, is Father's room. That's where we do meditations, personal small meditations. There's water in the back, by the door if you care for the water. And oh, yes, please, turn off your cell phones.
Meanwhile, while he's setting up, Debbie, why don't you tell more about your experience as you have come here and what you have learned and what is the change that you're seeing in yourself in the past few months, I would say. I think it's almost a year now.
No, she started month of January.
January. So
Well, one of the main things that I did learn about myself is that I had gone through many stressful situations, stressful by anyone's standards. And I was responding to them by reacting to them, trying to prevent things. My mind was always racing ahead, looking for, searching for possibilities that might come so that I could be aware and stop that. And it became this circular worry. So when I learned, what I began to learn through meditation is that the whole thing is about not focusing on the external, but the answer is inside myself, but not the self that I knew. It was my soul. And so I finally learned that the soul is completely different than the shell of my body. And through that, I began to stop worrying. So that's something that was really important and changed my life a lot.
That's a big teacher.
Yeah.
Let's give him a big hand. All right, so I guess Ha is ready. So we would love to listen to you. Ha, would this be kind of better? Because we don't really have a stand for the mic, and
I think
but this would really go very well. We are also transmitting it to a lot of people across the country.
Oh, really?
I
have to go right now.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure, I think.
John is always so peaceful. When I look at him, talk about a stable, hard throne, right? And my mind and my heart's going like this.
You have to switch off your mic. Now it will go. No, not just a second. I'm sure. Is this really on? It has to work. Maybe because it got disconnected. Something happened because. One second, sir. This is two. Two is off. This is working. If I switch this off, this has to work. Okay, let's figure this out. Yeah, something's happened. I think there's some loose connection there. Maybe I think the lower end. I think
Yeah,
it's
I think
working
it
now.
is on.
I think it's working now. Yeah.
Yeah, and this cannot be all the way in.
It's kind of working apart.
Hello?
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not sure if you want. I'm not sure if you want to hear me.
No, we.
First of all, thank you so.
I have another mic. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
It has to. I I just tested it.
Maybe it's all speaking.
Hello, testing one, two.
Yes.
So, first of all, thank you for having me here today. Um, I'm a member of Southeastern Buddhist community. I have sessions of meditations together. I'm also still very much a student of Buddhism. Whenever I have a chance to learn, not just Buddhism, but anything, any religions, particularly Western religions, I welcome the opportunity. Anyway, one of the things that I learned about Buddhism is interbeing, and that is we are all a part of each other, and your happiness is very much my happiness, and your well-being is very much my well-being. And so I like to sing a very short song. This song is about interbeing. By the way, this morning when I was practicing, my wife, she runs downstairs and said, "What are you singing?" And I told her, and she said, "I thought you were singing The Lion King." No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me. I release you to be so free. Because I am in you and you are in me. Because I am in you and you are in me. No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me. I release you to be so free. Because I am in you and you are in me. Because I am in you and you are in me.
Appreciate it.
Did you write that song?
No, this song is one of the songs from Plum Village in Plum Village is a monastery in France where Thich Nhat Hanh started it. And he has a number of mindfulness songs, and this is one of them.
And your voice is
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, Jasmine, would you like to sing? You said you want to sing. Let's give her an opportunity to sing if you'd like to sing. Come up. Sure.
So this song is by Mariah Carey and it's called Butterfly.
Butterfly,
Yes.
not the beat.
I know, right? Not the beat. Spread your wings and prepare to fly. For you to become a butterfly. Oh, fly abundantly into the sun. If you should return to me, we truly were meant to be. So spread your wings and fly, butterfly. Spread your wings and prepare to fly. For you to become a butterfly. Oh, fly abundantly into the sun. If you should return to me, we truly were meant to be. So spread your wings and fly, butterfly.
What a beautiful song. It was a perfect song to accompany it. Thank you. Thank you. Before I introduce you to our guest, can I tell you one quick good karma story? This summer I was out watering the garden of the church, and when I turned on the nozzle in the outside wall, the whole thing pulled apart, and the pipe went into the wall, and the water was gushing everywhere. I was the only one there. I had no idea what to do, and so I called Sam, and this one of the elders, and who's a contractor, and he said, okay, it's going to take me a while because I'm on a job, I'll be here in a minute. So then I had to try to find the main that turned out to be under 4 inches of dirt. But you would never know where that water main was. So I finally found it, and just as Sam pulled up in his truck, the utility truck came right down the street and stopped in front of me. I mean, what was the chances of that? And stopped right in front of me and fixed the water problem. So I figured that must be my good karma part.
Yes. You're really good at everything here, at least I know it.
So, so what I'd like to ask, can you step in?
Could you keep the mic closer
Oh, I'm
because
sorry. Can you step in? Would you like to come up? And
Shri talk.
should take the high. And I'd like to ask each of you if you would mind sharing with us what you feel karma is.
Is that mic really working?
Hello?
And this chair is for you actually.
It is?
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. Before we go on to the actual conversation, I wanted to take this moment to really thank all of you, of course, our special guests, John and Ha. I had the opportunity to listen to Ha's music a couple of times. I think the first time was at a church in Aiken. It's something in Aiken where we had come, and it was so beautiful. I enjoyed it so much, and I said, how can a person have both such a beautiful voice, not both, but beautiful voice, a real knack at the strings of the guitar, but also such peace that flows through his fingers and his mouth, his lips, and his eyes. And I also then requested him to come to the Peace in the Park, our annual Peace in the Park event that we do every year. And so last year we had him, and he sung two such beautiful songs. I have them recorded. It's actually on the YouTube, and it's also on our website, Peace in the Park website. So we listened to it actually recently when we visited the website, just to check on what's going on with the website, and I had the nice opportunity to listen to it again. So thank you, Ha, for coming up in such short notice and sharing your music with us. And John, we have had a long relationship now. I think a few years back we met. He is very active with the interfaith community. He has done a lot of work in the society here, in this community, spreading, I would say, awareness towards Buddhism, but just by being a nice person that he is. He visited this place, I think, a year and a half back, and that time he was planning his own Peace in the Park event in the Pendleton Park, if I'm not mistaken, right? And we had gone there. He had done it so nicely, and as you see, as everybody has already noticed, he's a very peaceful human being, and a pleasure to be with him. And his wife is not well yet. It's in the rehab, if I may say. And still, despite the fact that he's intensely taking care of her, but he still agreed to come over for the session at a very short notice again. I think 5-6 days back we had approached him. So without further ado, now I give it back to Debbie. Just a moment more about Debbie. Debbie has been with the Brahma Kumaris now, coming to the meditation center for 6-8 months, but she has really taken it on very well and become a very integral part of this space. She she makes it as if it's her center, her place, and that's the truth of it. And because it's everyone's space, this is a common space, a public space, but she takes it as if it is her responsibility to make sure the gardens are good. And she'll work tirelessly. I have never seen anybody with so much of energy working from dedication, so much of energy, dedication, love for God, love for humanity. She just, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock till he says, stop, please stop. Yeah. She'll be pulling all the weeds, and I feel like, please come in, drink water, eat something. But she'll be pulling the weeds, clearing up everything, and it's just amazing amount of dedication that she shows. So we are learning, actually. She says she learns from us, but we are learning a lot from her too. So it's a beautiful relationship here. So yes, going back to you now, I'll let you now take over from here.
But I would like to invite each one of you to define how you see karma, what you think, what does it mean to you?
So Buddha did talk about karma, and his point of view, the best that I understand it, was that karma was simply cause and effect. It's not moral judgment, it's not justice, it's just the way things are, and it's cause and effect. So let me read a little bit from the Dhammapada, because I think it expresses it fairly well. What we are today comes from our thoughts of yesterday, and our present thoughts build our life of tomorrow. Our life is the creation of our mind. If a man acts with an impure mind, suffering follows him like the wheel of a cart follows the beast that draws the cart. What we are today comes from our thoughts of yesterday, and our present thoughts build our life of tomorrow. Our life is the creation of our mind. If a man acts with pure mind, joy follows him as his own shadow. Basically, the idea that's encapsulated in karma and in Buddhism is cause and effect. And that's really the crux of the Buddhist teaching. It's not fatalistic, so when you're born, you're not doomed to live your past karma. You, in fact, can create your own new karma at any time. And in fact, that's the opportunity that the Buddha saw. You're not bound by what happened in the past. It is an influence, but it doesn't control you and it doesn't shape you. One of the issues that I sort of personally dealt with karma when I was trying to sort this out a fairly long time ago was this idea in some places that karma is a way of controlling your own future. It's a way for the self to get what it wants by creating good karma. And I had to let that thought go. So I think what was helpful was actually a thought that came from the Bhagavad Gita. And it was the idea that whatever good karma you create, you give back to God, if you want to use that word. It's not yours. You give it, and it may come back to you, that's fine, but you don't control it. It's not a selfish motive to create a good life for yourself, or create what your selfish self normally wants. I found that very helpful. And I quit worrying about all the prescriptions that I saw about if you do this, it'll create good karma and you'll have a good life. The Eightfold Path that the Buddha defines really laid out what he thought were the key attributes of living a good life, one that created good benefits for others. And if you think about it, if it creates peace in the world around you, that also creates an environment of peace for yourself. In a way you can't escape your own effects. So for me, the challenge has been to think about it a little bit, but certainly not pass judgment on anybody about what. This is an effect of karma. This is a result of their karma. The Buddha identified several different impacts, things that shape people's lives. One was the laws of physics. So if a stone drops on your foot, it's probably going to hurt. That's gravity. It has nothing to do with karma. There's the laws of genetics, the laws of biology, they work. So karma, he said, was one of 5 different influences that shape people's lives. Moral cause and effect, and also, I think growing out of the Hindu tradition, karma, he talked about proximate karma. So what you were doing when you died had a bigger impact than maybe some other things that were buried in the past. But basically, karma wasn't anything to be feared. It's just part of life, and it's a substance that you can use to create a better future, just like you talked about your thoughts creating the future. I am the result of all my past actions and all my past thoughts. That's just a fact. And that's how we saw it, cause and effect.
Jack said very beautifully about the cause and effect. That is what is karma. Actually, if we look at this word karma, this word has come from the Sanskrit word, the meaning of which is action. But if we think about, the action is not just what we are doing, but action is actually what we are thinking as well. Because thinking is an act of mind. So if we say that, I did not do this, or maybe if I say that I I spoke very sweetly with this person. But internally, if your thinking is not matching with what you are speaking, so there you are creating a karmic account. You know? So it's not that what you are doing that is creating your karmic account, but it is what you are thinking. What is the intention behind what you are speaking? That is actually the karma. So karma starts right at the level of our mind. But just like Jack said, that if we think in a good way, if our mind is thinking in a good way, then we will be acting also in the right way. Because whatever we are doing, the seed is the thought. We think and then we speak and then we do. So it's like a chain. So the effect of action is the result, is the fruit. But the seed is not just the thought, but seed is actually the thought, the speech, and the action that you do with your hands. So in Brahma Kumaris, our understanding about karma is, when in this country, when they talk about karma, they always use this karma in a negative way. That, something bad happens and then they say that, oh, it is all because of my karma. But our understanding is that karma is not only always negative, but it is in my hands. If I'm thinking in a good way, that means I'm creating a very good energy, positive energy. So karma is all about what type of energy you are creating in your mind. If you are creating good energy, good thoughts, elevated thoughts, that is your positive karma. And you are on the positive side. On the other hand, if you are creating bad thoughts for someone, that means you are creating bad energy inside. And that is what you will be radiating outside. Because what is in there, that is what is going to be out there. So you create bad energy inside, you radiate that energy, and that energy you are giving it to someone. So what goes around comes back to you. As you sow, so shall you reap. That is what is the law of karma. And also we understand different types of karma, like positive karma, negative karma, neutral karma, all these types of karma we understand on the basis of the type of consciousness that we have. If my consciousness is that I am a being who is performing this action, that is positive karma. Because in that consciousness, my thinking will always be in the positive direction. Because the consciousness of the soul, the being, is always positive. On the other hand, if I see myself as this physical body, and then I create thoughts, those thoughts are always going to be on the negative side. So I create negative karma. So that is my negative action. So this is a little bit about karma. It's a very deep topic, but this is in brief that we understand karma is not just the negative that people talk about, but it is all about whatever energy we give, positive energy we give to others, the same energy we are going to receive back. So we have to be very, very careful of what we are thinking here. Because every moment, whatever I am thinking, I am kind of creating a karmic account. It's very, very important to be vigilant. That is what is meditation, is moment-to-moment awareness. Moment-to-moment awareness of what? Of what I am thinking, what I am speaking, and what I am doing.
Well, Kanishka has very nicely shared what we have understood with the Brahma Kumaris. But it's so interesting that across all cultures, it's pretty much the same thing. And that's why when this topic came up and the idea came that we should invite people from other faiths, and that was not to see what is different in different faiths, but what is the commonality of all these faiths, and the understanding that in this world at this time, we are reeling in sorrow. There is pain, there is suffering everywhere, and we ourselves sometimes find ourselves in a state where we don't want to be. But what law of karma does is it puts a responsibility back onto our shoulders, onto our laps, that if we are suffering at this moment, This is the result of the actions we have performed in the past, which John has very beautifully shared from the teachings of Buddha, that we are, what we are experiencing right now is a sum total of all the energies, all the experiences that we have created in the past. But at the same time, the beauty of this is the two arms of karma, if you will, that the past is what creates the present, but the present is what creates the future. So whatever I have at this moment, whatever I am doing in this moment will determine my future. So the destiny, who writes my destiny? I myself write my destiny. It's very interesting. Think about it for a moment. That we constantly try to blame everything and everyone around us. But if we understand that we can change our destiny by changing the energy that we create, by changing the actions we perform, we can make our destiny, make our future exactly the way we want it to be. Often there is a thought that God creates our destiny. You think God creates our destiny, God creates our future? If God were to create the future for us, all of us, would He create anything bad? If God is our parent, we are His children, would He put in, say, if you are the parent and you have to write the horoscope, the future of your children, would you write even a drop of sorrow in it? That you go here and you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to fall down and you're going to break your face or whatever. Are you going to write all that? You're going to only write the best, the most happiest situations for your children. Similarly, God doesn't do that. God doesn't create our destiny. The law of karma shows us, explains to us, emphasizes for us that we are the ones who create our own destiny based on the actions we perform. God has nothing to do with it. Does that answer for a little bit?
Does anyone else like to comment on what was said so far?
You have to keep the mic.
Oh, sorry. Would anybody like to comment on what was said so far or ask questions? Come on, Candy. Okay, so I have a question. And now the Brahma Kumaris are believers in rebirth, reincarnation. Is that something that Buddhists believe in?
If you talk to Tibetans, Buddhists, they talk about something that is pretty similar to reincarnation. And reincarnation was actually part of Western thought. So if you read Plato's Republic, in it there's a myth of E-R, where he talks about souls dying and going into an interlude where they sort of learn and repent and then choosing a different life. So at least in Plato's time, it was also part of Western thought. What the Buddha taught was rebirth. He did not teach reincarnation because part of what he taught was that there is no permanent self. So if there is no permanent self, there is no soul that has lasting significance. So his idea was like, and I'll give you an analogy. So a candle burns. The candle is a process. It's a chemical process. It produces light and heat. But it is a process, and it changes. It's different every single second. It's a confluence of the chemical elements, the heat that is already present, the fuel. Think of a river. A river flows. It's not the same river from time to time. So the Buddha saw the self that people talked about as sort of an illusion something that is a process that continued, and he did believe that the process continued when people died. It was sort of like maybe one candle lit a new candle, but it's not the same candle. It never is the same process. He saw the self as an illusion, one that got in people's way, because then when people created a self, then they were going to protect it and look at it as something that they owned, look at it from only that point of view. So it's really sort of a problem sometimes for some Buddhists to deal with. It's not a big issue to me. Whatever is, and I accept what is. But he didn't teach specifically an enduring soul that passes from generation to generation. And so he saw, for example, each new life was a new opportunity, was a new chance to reshape things, and he certainly didn't see any carryover that ought to be perpetrated based on where you were born, or how you were born, or into what society that you were born. So that's different. And for me, that's been useful in my experience, because part of my focus up until I really started thinking about Buddhism and practicing was all about trying to create my own, watch out for me. And the Buddhist idea is that you're really not separate from your environment, you're not separate from all the other beings that you interact with. You're part of the flux, you're part of the confluence, but it's nothing permanent, don't get attached to it.
So in a Buddhist principles, there is not an accumulated karma.
So the Buddha sees, and again, so the Buddha would look at saying that there was something, for example, an example that's often been used is that one candle, when it burning out, lights a new candle. Is that the same candle? And his answer would be, no, it's a different candle. Is it the same flame? No, but the old candle may have influenced the new candle and shaped it to some extent. When the Buddha died, they said, for example, and one of the things he taught was you didn't have to keep on this cycle of being reborn all the time, that there was an end to it. So when he died, people asked him, where will you go? He said, where does the flame go when the wood is all burned up? It's all burned up. There's no more rebirths for me. So it's not, again, this idea of this sort of the enduring self. The Buddha said that there really wasn't any single thing that endured forever. Everything was impermanent, and everything was a result of things, processes, influx, impacting and affecting each other.
Yeah. So this is really beautiful. I love this perspective as well. And sometimes we do get a little caught up in the self and the permanence of the self and so on and so forth. And the Brahma Kumaris concept evolved because I would say the need to answer few questions which have been virtually impossible and would be virtually impossible to answer if we don't take into consideration the dichotomy, if you will, but in a nice way, of the soul and the body. That body is a housing, a space where the soul enters and uses, the soul enters the body to perform actions. I think the battery is dying away, I guess. But so the actions have to be performed through the body. The soul cannot perform actions without the body. And the body cannot perform actions without the soul, the life energy within the body, animating the body. But it's not the body that's creating actions, right? It is the soul because the soul is the living energy, the life force. So if the soul is doing the actions, and the soul is imperishable, is permanent, is everlasting, indestructible, like the Bhagavad Gita says, nothing in the universe can destroy the soul. Neither a sword, the sharpest sword, can cut it, neither fire can burn it, nor water can wet it, or nor wind can dry it. And then I don't remember the exact words in Sanskrit that describes this, but in other words, there's no energy, no force that can destroy the soul, because soul is energy itself. Energy can neither be destroyed nor created. So we souls have always existed, we souls will always exist. And as soon as we come into the body, then we start performing actions. And based on the actions we perform, we create a credit or debit. So if we create positive actions, if we do good for others and ourselves and everybody around us, then we are creating a credit. When we do negative actions, both of which Kanishta just explained, the Brahma Kumaris understanding is that when we are in the consciousness that I am a soul, not the body, I'm the living energy, the life force, not this physical self that I see in the mirror every day, then automatically the actions that we perform become elevated. As soon as I think that I am this body, then all of the different tags, the labels of the body come into play. And then because it is impermanent, because it's going to be destroyed eventually, fear factor comes into play, then comparisons come into play, then self-preservation, if you will, also comes into play, and all of these create negative actions. And these negative actions then create a debit for the soul, that the soul has to pay off. So because if you look at life around you, Debbie had mentioned earlier when she was sharing her own story, and it somehow feels as if life is not fair, life is not balanced, but actually it is. What happens is, in general, we begin to be very narrow-sighted. We begin to look only at life in snapshots. And I like to see this as, say, if you're watching the Kentucky Derby, and has anybody interested in Kentucky Derby? Right?
Not
Yes.
interested, but I've watched.
Watch it, all right. So somebody gives you a snapshot of what's happening, and the horse number 3 may be right in the front, and you may think, oh, this is going to win. 10 seconds later, it could be on the ground and never reach to the finish line. So the important thing that we have understood over time is that we have to see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the continuum of life, of the soul, the journey as it moves from one body to the next, to the next, to the next. Because how else would we able to explain somebody taking birth with multiple birth defects, somebody as a child being abused, somebody going through major illnesses as a child. That child has just been born, has done no harm, has done nothing wrong for anybody, doesn't even, and in this physical body, the present physical body, has even understood what is bad, what is good, and yet it is getting so much. On the other hand, we see people who show such wonderful talent, like right? Such beautiful talent, which it's interesting, you will know so many people as children, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, playing music at the level of somebody really accomplished, and creating art of different types, which we can never imagine. How is that happening when clearly there is something of the past that is being brought into the moment, into that new physical body, the new physical space of the soul. And that's making the reality, if you will, of the soul. Is that making sense? I think these batteries are dying away. Once
But we're small enough group.
we are trying to.
Oh,
We have a bunch of batteries there.
This is what happens over lifetime. We lose our battery.
Yes, it's true.
Yes.
Have to recharge.
This mic is also giving us the understanding of the law of karma.
Yours is not working either?
um, it is somewhat. This is the one you have.
Okay, good. I think something's wrong with the system rather than the batteries. How can all of them stop working?
Does anyone have a question? Now's your chance.
So do we have a choice as a soul on whether we return to a body or not?
Huh,
Get a reborn?
I never thought of that.
What was your question?
So I'll ask that question. Yeah, I'll repeat the question for everyone because for the other people who are far away, they need to know as well. So the question is, as a soul, do we have a choice whether we come back to this body, to a body, and live a life or not? And the answer is actually no, in a way, because the souls can only function when they are in a body, and the body creates a space for them to, like a field of action, if you will. And so the whole understanding of Brahma Kumaris is that we souls once upon a time lived in what is called as a soul world, a place where all souls reside, where the Supreme Soul, the highest consciousness also resides. That's our original home. But we cannot stay there forever. We all have to come down into the cycle of life. And we take a body, the initial body that we receive, because the soul is in a pure state, coming from the original home, is a pure body. Because the consciousness is pure, and that's primary, that helps us have the best, the most super body, if you will, and a super physical world for us, which we call as a golden age, the prime of life. And then as the soul takes rebirths, goes from one body to the next, and even when it's performing actions, just like the flashlight and the batteries within the flashlight, just using the battery, using the flashlight consumes some energy, and every now and then you do find that the flashlight is not working right. So the soul, as it does perform action, there is consumption of energy. The soul becomes less charged or discharged, if you will, with each action it performs and each birth it takes. Then there is a state of the consciousness where the soul kind of forgets that it is a soul and feels as if it is the body that it's living within, and gets attached to the labels, the tags, and so on and so forth. And that is the beginning of what is called as body consciousness. Then all the actions that are performed are negative, and when we perform negative actions in this consciousness, the battery gets discharged further. And there is a point when the battery gets extremely discharged that it requires a higher intervention of God, a connecting to God. And when the soul, that is a desire in the soul to go back to its natural state, the original state, and so that calling for God, calling for higher consciousness becomes extremely prominent for the soul. Like all of you have already probably felt, right, that there is a higher calling within, and that once that higher calling gets activated, the soul wants to connect to the higher source. There is drawing of energy from the higher source, and the battery gets recharged, if you will. So this is this whole play. And one time somebody was asked this question, a senior yogi, and it's like I like the analogy that the senior yogi had shared, which I share myself too. It's like an actor, a very famous actor. You can take any name. And this actor, where would we be happiest? Would he be happiest at home, or would he be happy on the stage? So when we come onto this physical world, we take up these physical costumes, if you will, the body. That's when there is more joy. What's the joy in staying at home? You see, I remember when back in India, when I used to be as a child, I used to be very sick all the time, and I used to be sick all the time, and we used to live on a high-rise building, and there used to be other kids playing downstairs, and my mom would say, "You're sick, too sick. Don't go down, or you'll catch cold, you'll have allergies and all those problems." And I would watch from the balcony, but the joy of going down is totally different. Getting dirty and being with the friends and so on and so forth. So staying up, you are safe, you're protected, you don't have to mess yourself up or anything like that. But then still the joy of life is pain. And therefore, for us, if I have a choice, I would rather come into life and see and experience, because you see, the soul can only experience and express when it is within the body. The soul uses the eyes to see, the soul uses the ears to hear, uses the mouth to speak, uses the mouth also to eat all these nice things. So the expression and experiencing happens only when we are in the body. And I'll give an opportunity to John to answer the same question.
Well, I think the primary answer in Buddhism, whatever cause and effect is in play causes it to be. The Buddha thought that rebirth was sort of inevitable until you understood how the system worked. And then you could be free of it. And what he taught was the path to be free of it, to get off the wheel, to get off the cycle of endless rebirth and endless recycle. So the phrase he used several times, "I have lived the holy life, I'm not going to do this again, I'm through." And so again, his karma was burned up, he had lived a life such that he didn't create any more. And so from his standpoint, he didn't have to descend into this life of suffering. And once you get born a human being, you're going to be a human being and suffer all the things that human beings do. So I think the answer would be probably, in most cases, no. Now, he did talk a little bit, but not much, about other realms of existence. There were the 5 realms, and whether you want, in some traditions, they look at those as mental realms. Certainly, you can live in any of those realms as a human being. You can live in hell, you can live in heaven, you can live in an animal realm, you can live in a human realm. So whether he was talking metaphorically or talking in actuality really isn't terribly clear from the sutras. His answer to most questions about things like the origin of the world or the end of the world is, I'm here to relieve suffering. I have found a way out of suffering as a human being. I'm not a god. Thich Nhat Hanh refers to Buddha as our big brother. He was a human being, and if he could do it, we human beings can do it. So he looked at the human condition was an opportunity, was a wonderful opportunity to experience consciousness and to be free from suffering, something that's not possible in most other forms of life.
So, is there a way to end the karmic cycle? All three of you, but the microphone doesn't. Yeah.
From the Buddhist point of view, the answer was yes. So, I mean, if you look at the Four Noble Truths, was sort of a summary of his teaching. He actually didn't teach them as the Four Noble Truths, but they became a summary of what he taught. And his view was that there was a cause for suffering, and mainly that was craving. And if you were able to deal with that, that there was an end to suffering. Because it has a cause, you could be free from it. And the means that he taught was mainly the Eightfold Path, which is a path of meditation, a path of conduct, and a path of living.
Yeah, so definitely there is a way to settle our karmic accounts, as we understand from Brahma Kumaris, that when we connect with our true self, that is the soul that we are, and we start looking at others also with the same vision, and so if we change our perception, if we change our vision, then what will happen is, over time, because now we are sending positive energy to the other person, so that positive energy that I am directing to others, that will help me settle my own karmic accounts. Because I created karmic accounts because of some kind of negative energy that I had radiated before. So if I want to settle whatever I had done before, the only way to settle my karmic accounts is to be on the positive side. And to be on the positive side means to be connected with the positivity. And that positivity is that I am a soul. So if I am aware that I am a soul, with that consciousness, if I am interacting with others, and also, not just soul consciousness, but here one of the things that we practice is also connect with the Supreme Consciousness. Because, when we create karmic accounts, in that process of creating the karmic accounts, the soul loses a lot of energy. So soul does not have the power, enough power to settle the karmic accounts all by itself. So it needs some kind of, high energy, high power through which it can connect and kind of take that power, take that strength. For example, it is said that if you really, really want to help someone, or if you really want to settle your karmic accounts with someone, then you need to use the power of forgiveness. And nowadays we see there are so many meditation commentaries on forgiveness, and they use this power to settle their karmic accounts. So that power is actually within us. All of us have this power, but we are not able to use that power because we have lost that energy. So when we connect with God, the Supreme, He is the ocean of forgiveness. Because along with forgiveness, what is needed is the love. Unless we have love, we cannot forgive anybody. So we need both. We need the power of love, and we need the power of forgiveness. And God is, the way we see God, is that He is the ocean of love and He is the ocean of forgiveness. So when we connect with that ocean, when we kind of, we are taking that energy, that positive energy, and that energy we can use to settle our karmic accounts with others. And we use one word that is called fire of yoga. So that kind of, high energy we have to generate in order to bring about that kind of settlement that we're looking for.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. A little bit more clarification to what you just shared. That there are actually two ways of settling our karma. One is the painful way, and if I take, if it's like, um, if I do something wrong, that is, I'm creating negative energy, have to return that in some way by suffering. So there is this pathway of suffering, and which we are going through anyways, right? We are seeing there is a lot of suffering happening. There's a lot of suffering happening in each one's life. But there is a way out, which John also alluded to, was that when we cleanse the soul, if you will, you see, the soul, as I had mentioned, the soul is the one that performs actions. So our positive or negative actions get imprinted on the soul, which we call as sanskaras. So the thoughts that we create, the actions that we do, whatever we're hearing, whatever we're seeing, whatever we're doing, everything gets recorded into the soul and gets packaged as what we call as sanskaras, or the personality. And this package, this packed up thing, then goes with the soul to the next birth and future and whatever. So if the package is negative, it's like negativity attracts negativity, like attracts like. So if we have a package that is negative, it will attract negativity from around us. It may not come from the same person. You see this ripple effect that we talk about also, that when we put a stone into the pond, the ripples are created, go to the edge, come back. Right? So these ripples don't know the stone or anything, it just knows that there was some change that happened to the surface of the water. So here too, when we perform these actions and the package, the negative package has been created, is going to attract negative energy from everything and everyone around us. And that is going to cause the suffering. If we want to get rid of the suffering, if we want to be free from suffering, the only way, the only other way is meditation. That is creating that positive energy within ourselves to cleanse the soul, which again John had alluded to. That, and we call it, in Kanishta was sharing, the phrase that we use is the fire of yoga. It's like when you have gold and gold ore, and gold ore is pretty impure and it is not really that valuable. It becomes valuable only when we have all the negative, all the impurities out of it, and pure gold comes to us. And the only way that can happen is when gold goes into, or it is put into a furnace, the high temperature, and just sitting in there, and allows these impurities to melt away, and the gold becomes pure. So similarly, when we connect with the highest consciousness, and with the understanding that of who we really are, our true identity, that we are souls, that we are life forces, life energies, that's when the necessary energy gets created, and the purification of the soul happens. And it takes time. It needs a certain duration of time for sure. It's like when you are trying to boil milk, right? We were doing it at your place. So if you're boiling milk, it takes time. You switch on the gas, and and put it on it, and then you switch it off again in a few seconds, nothing will happen. And you keep doing it every so often, and the whole day will go by, the whole year will go by, but it will never boil. So similarly, for the soul, it needs certain temperature, which means intensity, and certain amount of duration, where the soul sits in soul consciousness and God consciousness, and creating that energy to purify itself. Once it's pure, then it's positive, and it will only attract positivity. So yes, there is a way to end suffering, and so this state is called as karmatit state. Is there a word? I'll ask John in a moment if there is a word in Buddhism that kind of means the same. But what karmatit means, that one thing very important to understand is that you can never dissociate the cause from the effect. Every action has to have a reaction. That's physics. Every seed that we sow is eventually going to have a product. So it's not that we are dissociating the cause from the effect, but we perform actions in a way that the effect no longer affects us. That we rise beyond the effect of the effect. That's karmatit. That when normally it's actually a very high state of consciousness, because when we perform actions, we always perform actions because we want something in return. We are hoping that by doing this we'll get this, right? So if I'm doing good action also, I should get good fruit, right? If I'm sowing an apple seed, I should get an apple. That's my hope. But if you understand the law, that it is immutable, it is a cross, it's like a thread that weaves through each one's lives, throughout our lives. It has to happen. Then we don't have to worry. We just do it, you do the good action, and it's like forget about the future. It will come back to us. That is called as karmatit stage. And like John alluded to about Buddha being like a big brother, like as a human he could accomplish or achieve that high state, then why can't we? And he was several centuries back. He could accomplish it. With modern technology, we should be able to do it faster. Our cell phones and Google should help us get there faster. But similarly, Brahma Baba, is like a big brother. He clearly is not God. He never said he's God. He never even called himself as a guru. He never said I'm a founder. He's no longer in his physical form, but even when he was there, he never allowed anybody to say I'm the founder of this organization. He's like a big brother, a role model, and a medium for God's teachings to be shared with all of us. And he was able to reach that state of karmatit, beyond the effect of effect.
In other words, we can say that he was able to get rid of all the burdens of the past, like karma. He was liberated.
If you have more questions.
I got a question. So, I know you mentioned, like, it takes time, but for each person, that time could be different. Like, their process and that time that it takes could be different. Some people may take longer, some people may not. It just depends on how much burdens or that they may have had in the past.
I let John answer that first. And John, I would love to know if there is a word for karmatit.
There may be, but I'm not familiar with it. It's sort of a slightly different idea, and I'm not sure of a word for it. Yes, I don't think there's any, certainly one of the things in Buddhism that I've experienced in my own practice is that at some point, like human beings tend to be greedy. So if you decide this is a good thing, you want it now, and you want it fast. And so part of my practice was to understand that it takes time and patience and to be open to whatever is, to live each day in the moment the best I can and not worry so much about how fast I arrive or when I arrive. There's nothing in Buddhism that says so in Buddhism doesn't spell out a time frame. What it spells out is a path. This is the path, these are the steps. This is how to get there. It's a roadmap, if you will. But your individual wanderings on that road are different and depend on the individual, and maybe there's a result of a whole lot of things. So there's no specific time, and at least for me, I quit worrying about it. It's, when it happens, if it happens, what has been very helpful is regardless of where an endpoint is, the insights and the help and the mental help in my own life has been sufficient to keep me practicing. And so those insights are valuable, and every one has the effect of providing more freedom, more insight, and so that's really what keeps me going, rather than worrying about the endpoint. At this point, it's more about practice. It's more about doing what I do diligently for the benefits that it provides in my current life and my current situation, rather than worrying about an endpoint of achieving final liberation, stay on the right path. And at this point, I'm not so much concerned about achieving an endpoint. Again, to me, that's part of this Buddhist idea of letting go of the selfish intents. So part of this idea is that, I want what I want, and I want it now, and I want to get it, and I'm trying to manipulate the world around me to get that. And so part of the Buddhist path is to let go of that craving and to be willing to stick to the path, be willing to accept the insights that it gives, but not do it with a sense of craving. There was a Zen anecdote. And so the student went to the Zen master and he said, how long will it take me to get enlightened? And the Zen master said, listened to him, and he said, well, 10 or 15 years. And the student was unhappy. He said, but let me tell you, I'll try really hard, I'll put in twice the effort, and do much more diligently than I had planned to. Then how fast will I get enlightened? He said probably 30 years. So the idea is to do the practice, be patient, and not worry so much about where you are on the path or how to get to the next step.
Yeah, I really like the way John has put it all together. And that's true. Sometimes, just to be stress-free with meditation, we create more stress, right? I want to be peaceful. I want to be peaceful. I'm not getting that peace. I'm sitting in meditation, but I'm not getting the peace. So yeah, we have gotten very end result driven, and which is pushing the end result further away from us. That's why even Raj Yoga meditation talks about being. We're constantly doing. That's why we become human doings, right? Rather than human beings. Being the person that you have to be. That's all you need to be, and everything automatically happens for you. On the other hand, yes, that question is valid too, and I want to acknowledge and respect the question, because when we put in effort, it in a way, it attracts the universe to help us, attracts God to help us. Unless we have the desire, nothing comes to us really. And the, whatever we desire, eventually that's where life takes us. It's like very nicely said that our wherever our thoughts go, our energy flows, and wherever the energy flows, that thing grows. So you keep thinking negative, you keep doing wrong things, if you will. And again, I want to not keep emphasizing this wrong and right, and truly speaking, there's nothing wrong, nothing right. Truly. But if you just keep doing what the soul is most comfortable with, because the soul has its own inherent wisdom. It knows what to do. It doesn't have to be told. It doesn't have to go around seeking what is right, what is wrong. That happens when we are not connected to the soul. As soon as you say, I'm the soul, and truly experience being the soul, the answers come right away, the wisdom comes right away, and you begin to act in the right way, creating the right energy, as in creating the right future. I'm not sure. I apologize for all the mics being it's so strange.
Yeah, it is the first time it's happening.
First time period. This is the best mic system we could have ever bought.
Probably humidity.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was actually the thought that came to my mind was, if we are too impatient, that's not the right way of pursuing this meditation practice. We have to be very patient, because just like a mother is so patient about her child, when the child is growing, mother does not say that you have not done this, like why you are not becoming a doctor fast. Become doctor fast. It's not like that. She has to be patient. She has to see the child studying and then growing and then learning, and that is a joy. That is a joy to see the child growing in that way. So every step we need to enjoy how I am growing so beautifully. So talk to your mind. In this meditation practice, we see our mind as a small child, and we talk to our minds, and then we also pat our minds. Yes, you did a good job, and that gives joy to us. So if we are patient to our minds and we are loving to our minds, we start to enjoy the journey instead of thinking about when to reach. Yes, definitely we need to keep our aim in front of us, and we do have the aim here in this organization that we have to become a divine being. From a human being, our aim is that we have to become a divine being, and that we can become only if I imbibe all the divine qualities. So definitely we need to check how far I have reached, but not rush. Slowly and slowly just keep imbibing those divine qualities and keep using those qualities in action. The more you use the qualities, divine qualities in action, the more good results you will get. And you are then going towards the positive side. Your account will go towards the positive side. So this is the beauty of this journey. So don't think too much about how early, how fast I can reach the destination, but just enjoy the journey.
More questions?
Would anyone else like to ask a question or make a comment? Well, in closing, I
Thank
wonder.
you.
No, before
Oh,
that,
sorry.
before
Say
that,
thank you.
good. No, just a moment. I think you had asked a couple of questions in the beginning, and I wanted to touch upon those in a way when you were sharing your story also. And it came to me a moment back when, but now I'm losing what the questions were. Do you remember what you had in your mind when you were sharing your story and you were saying why this is happening, or you were sharing about, I can't remember now.
Her
how
son
do-
Yeah,
and
how
her
do I-
son and your
leg.
son's wife and the leg thing, and but I can't remember what was the question that triggered an answer in my mind, and I'm losing out on that. But in general, I want to share also that um, there is more to law of karma that really meets the eye, and one of which is the understanding of responsibility, and responsibility is not just half responsibility; it's total responsibility. And sometimes, like I can give a nice example that if there is a job interview where 500 people are applying and they're only accepting 5 people, and you are the one who gets accepted, who do you give the credit to? Yourself, right? Yeah, I was good enough. That's why I was chosen. But a couple of years later, then they're trying to downsize their company, and they lay you off out of so to 5,000 to now 2,000, and they choose to lose you. Um, whom do you give the credit to?
Somebody else.
Yeah. So it's always somebody else. So important to understand that um, it's it, it doesn't have to, you don't have to kind of take it to the past births if you don't want to, or future births, but even right now we can see what energy we are transmitting at this moment. If I'm transmitting negative energy, I'm creating negative energy, sum total at the end is negative, and I'm going to attract negative. If I have sum total is positive, then it's going to attract positive. So if I have been laid off, there's something maybe I could have done better. And if you do that, that's a beautiful thing right there. It's a beautiful revelation right there, because then in the future you can make changes within yourself to get a better future that you want. The other important tenet of the law of karma is choice. The, and something that goes along with it is freedom. So, and if you put these together, it's freedom of choice. So in life, we all are free. And in today's world, it seems sometimes that we are not free. Sometimes that we are not free. But in general, even though we have to follow the norms of the society, the laws of the land, we still are inherently free, free to choose every moment what we do, free to choose our responses to things that come our way. And if something is coming our way, based on our perception of that thing, we can choose to respond in this way versus that way. And this first way could be positive, the second way could be negative, or vice versa. But it's really our choice. We have the choice. We are free to choose. But this freedom now, if you couple it with freedom of choice, you couple it with responsibility, these become two faces of the same coin. You cannot have freedom if you're not responsible. You see, a child does his homework, does whatever he's supposed to do, then mother would say, all right child, go and play. Come back in an hour or whatever. And if the child is not responsible enough, the mother won't allow the child to do what it needs to do. Even in this world, if you behave responsibly and you don't go around stealing and robbing and troubling other people, you take responsibility of your actions, then you're free. You can live in your house, you can go wherever, do whatever. But if you start going into wrong things like not taking responsibility of your actions and all those things that I mentioned earlier, you will be in jail. You won't have the freedom. So freedom and choice, freedom of choice and responsibility, it's a very important understanding of the law of karma. Then the other important thing of with karma is intention, the motive. And Kanishta had touched upon this a little bit. Many times we think that we are doing a great action. It looks externally positive. However, internally there is selfish motive, and which John was also mentioning earlier, that we kind of become very selfish. There's a greed, there's a desire that overwhelms our consciousness. And so if I'm thinking, oh, I'm helping others, but the whole desire is somehow it should benefit me, then it's not really a positive action, and I won't get the positive result that I'm hoping. And that's why people get disappointed, and people feel that law of karma doesn't work. That I did the good that I was hoping, and I did it, but it didn't give me the positive. There are two things here. One is what's the intention behind, but also understanding that sometimes some seeds when you sow, like if you sow watermelon, it takes not much time to grow. But if you sow a mango seed, it takes lifetime and more to have mangoes. So there's a patience factor, which Kanishka was also sharing, that you do a positive action and just let it be. And depending on where it is, what kind of soil it is, and so on and so forth, what kind of seed it is, it will give us the result eventually, but it will give us after some time. So disappointment, when you understand the law of karma deeply, the disappointment factor goes away. And then last but not the least, I want to share one more tenet, and that is ignorance is no excuse. And what that means is, I got a ticket once when I didn't know earlier that the no turn on red, and I turned it, and I remember so well the cops. I said I didn't know. He said now you know, sir. Now you know, and that's it. And so I cannot say that I can hurt somebody, harm somebody, and that's a negative action, and it's going to give me a negative result. I can't say that I don't know about it. I don't know the consequences of my actions. So if I have suffering right now, I cannot say that I didn't know that I should not have performed negative actions in the past. Now you know. So the law of karma is not really a punishment, if you understand that. It's not that, oh, you did negative, I'm going to give you a kick. No, it's not like that. It is eventually to help us understand that we can rise beyond doing these negative actions and just be positive, and this positivity will give us positivity in the future. Make sense? All right. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Om Shanti. Really.
Shanti.
And thank you very much, John, again. Do you have any concluding remarks as well? Do you want to say something?
No, I'm glad to be here, and I have enjoyed sharing this time and space with you.
Thank you very much. See, let's. And you see, while on the external surface, it may seem as if there were maybe difference in understanding of maybe law of karma or anything else, but see, there's so much of commonality right there. And in today's world, I feel we are all action driven, and we all cannot, because we are in this body, right? We have to perform actions, which Kanisha was saying that even when you are not doing anything, you're thinking that's an action itself. So now is the time for us to understand that no more am I going to perform negative actions. I am going to make sure that I only perform positive actions, because I want a good future. Everybody wants a good future, right? So we're going to only perform positive actions. And the burden that we have within us of all the actions in the past that we have done, knowingly or unknowingly, that we have done wrong. And that is another question in a way. I don't want to take time right now, maybe another time. Whether you do it knowingly or unknowingly, a negative action will give us a negative result. Knowingly or unknowingly, a positive action will give us a positive result. So we may have done lots in the past negative things, and those have to be gotten rid of. And so now is the time for sitting in quiet contemplation, reflection, meditation, however you want to do it, You are welcome to follow whatever way you want, whatever path you want, but do meditate and spend time with yourself to get rid of that sin, the burden, or I don't want to use the word sin if you will, the burden of negativity that we have within us so that we can all experience a great future for us. Om Shanti. With that I conclude. Thank you very much.
Todd, you had a concluding song you'd like to?
Oh.
And meanwhile, we will give the blessings and
So,
we have some sweet.
Yeah, there is
for
a
everyone.
sweet and a blessing for everyone. There's a special gift actually. Let's do this. A special gift for John and Ha, and we're going to share that with them. And then, as Ha sings another beautiful song for all of us, and we will have, and hopefully this time the mic will not create trouble, and we will take the blessing and the sweet. Landscape. It always comes out better. 1 minute. Sorry. This is the book, a special book for both of you. It is, the name of the book is Inner Beauty. For the people. Two wonderful people that we have in this community. We are so glad to have you both with us today. Thank you. Thank you. At the end, please, if you could stay till the end, and we'll have a group picture together. And so now we can listen to John. No, sorry. Yes. John, if you would like to come and sit. It is working. I tested it before I gave it to you.
Maybe it's me.
No,
It's karma.
it can't be. It can't be.
That's electricity in his
Hello,
soul.
hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, yeah, it's coming and going.
It is, it's a while.
That is what this song is about, right? It's coming and going, something like that.
No,
Coming and going.
The location. Hello. Hello. Testing 1, 2.
I don't know. You just go ahead, I guess.
We can hear you.
Oh, thank you again for having me here. And I just want to add that gathering like this is I I just want to be so much to be a part of, you know. Um, and to add on what you said earlier, I remember listening to I forgot the name of a teacher, about freedom and responsibility, and he said that we in this country we have a statue of liberty. We should have another statue, and it should be called the statue of responsibility. That was his point. So I think that's so very beautifully put. But I want to just offer another song to you. It's also a little bit on about interbeing with nature, and how nature is so much a part of us. When we hear things like the rhinos disappearing, or that we allow more hunters to hunt lions and things like that and bring them in to this country, it feels to me like we're killing ourselves. Very much. I feel very much like that. So this is about being a part of nature. And I just practiced this recently, so please forgive me. I am a flower, I am the sunshine, I am the earth, receiving the sea, and I am free when my heart is open. Yes, I am free when my mind is clear. Oh dear brother, oh dear sister, let's walk together mindfully. And I am free when my heart is open. Yes, I am free when my mind is clear. Oh dear brother, oh dear sister, let's walk together mindfully. I am a cloud, I am a blue sky, I am a bird spreading out. I am a flower, I am the sunshine, I am the earth, receiving the sea, and I am free when my heart is open. Yes, I am free when my mind is clear. Oh dear brother, oh dear sister, let's walk together.
Go. Perfect.
Perfect for you.
Right here. Right here.